provide a rebuttal. Because of having so many candidates, it's limited to 1 minute. Once we do one round of questions, the second question will be asked to the next candidate in line. That candidate will be providing 1 minute of discussion on the topic and rebuttals by all the other candidates, and they'll each be given a minute. Once we do this with each and every candidate on each and every question, there will be an open debate floor. We will have 2 minutes and 30 seconds for the candidates within that topic to discuss their points and to look at the points from other candidates. At that point, we will conclude question 1. Then we will move forward with 7 questions. So, at the beginning of the show, we actually drew lots to determine what position candidates will be put in terms of who's going to speak first. So we have them all determined and pre-positioned on the floor. So we'll start with our general opening. This question will be directed to each and every candidate. Candidate number 1 will open the floor, and here is the question. Tell us a bit about who you are and why you choose to run and what you offer your particular riding. Fortunately, you only have 30 seconds. Candidate number 1.
Hi, my name is Allison Mackenzie. I live in Napan, and I'm born and raised in Nelson. I am married to Terry Mackenzie of Douglastown, and we have 2 adult children. I'm a St. Thomas University graduate, and I've worked extensively on campaigns for over 30 years. I am passionate about making a change. And as an independent candidate, my voice will be the most influential in this projected minority government. I look forward to an educational and respectful debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mackenzie. Candidate number 2.
Good evening. I'm Patty Deach, the candidate for Miramichi-Grand Lake. I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, and I'm committed to preserving and protecting the beauty of the natural resources of this area, this province, this country, and this world. I'm also a nurse, and I'm fully aware of the issues that people wrestle with in terms of social justice. I feel that I will be very skilled at facing the dual challenge of both the climate emergency and addressing social contracts.
Thank you very much, Patty Deach. Candidate number 3, Pat Finnegan.
Thank you and good evening. I'd like to thank, first of all, Rogers for holding this democratic exercise. Alors bonsoir, ma communauté francophone. Ce fut un plaisir de vous servir durant mon terme. Et aussi, je regarde à être votre candidat de nouveau pour l'élection du 21 octobre. I'm also looking to be your Liberal candidate seeking re-election October 31st. I'm also proud of our plan to move forward, and I'm looking forward to discussing with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. Matthew Lawson.
Hello, my name is Matthew Lawson. I'm an independent candidate. And if you elect me, I'm going to do the one job that no other politician in the world has any idea what to deal with. I am the candidate that's armed with the necessary information required to deal with the addictions, the overdoses, the general lawlessness resulting from all of this activity. Will you choose lawlessness or Lawson?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawson. Our next candidate, Ron Nowlin, excuse me.
Thank you very much. Thanks to Rogers for the opportunity to provide us with this democratic process. I'm Ron Nowlin, born in Miramichi in 1946. After working in many provinces as a computer systems architect and a computer systems analyst and a teacher also of technology, I applied for and was accepted as a NAFTA trade computer management consultant. I worked in Canada and the US managing large computer projects for more than 12 years. In 2011, I retired to Miramichi, moved from Ottawa.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nowlin. Candidate number 6, Eileen Teslenko.
Good evening. My name is Eileen Clancy Teslenko. I am your NDP candidate. I was born in New Brunswick. I worked here as a waitress and a bartender for 22 years, and then I moved to Alberta. I worked there in the hospital and as a business agent for a union. I ran provincially against Ralph Klein on the issue of health care, which is one of my passions. I look forward to representing Miramichi-Grand Lake and being a new voice for you.
Thank you very much. And we have one last candidate, last but not least, Ms. Mackenzie.
McLean.
McLean, oh, I am sorry. Okay.
It's quite all right. I
My mistake.
appreciate. My name is Peggy McLean. I am your Conservative candidate. And I would first like to thank Rogers for allowing us to debate very important issues to our constituents tonight. I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, I'm also a small business owner, and I'm a passionate volunteer here in my community of Miramichi.
All right, well, thank you very much, candidates. Thank you for your brief introductions. Sorry we can't give you longer introductions, but let's get into the meat of tonight. We're going back to candidate number one. Remember, we all have a minute, and the rebuttals are on the topic. We discussed that before we went on to the air. So candidate number one, how do you foresee working towards your top political priority?
I plan to work for the people as an independent candidate in the Miramichi-Grand Lake. I plan to implement political change in a minority government. I plan to represent a riding which is diverse in political views, respectfully and honestly. I plan to collaborate with all 5 elected provincial MLAs who represent 4 political parties in our riding. Respectfully, I plan to also work with the First Nations 4 chiefs and regional chief in reconciliation and collaboration in moving forward. I will promote investing in seniors, veterans, middle class, and youth, and strive to make it easier for small businesses to grow. Those are just a few of the betterments that I plan to be working on and moving forward as an independent candidate.
Thank you very much. The second candidate, let's hear your response to that.
As a candidate for the Green Party, I feel we've done our homework, and I feel we're prepared for this election by developing a strong platform that is proactive rather than reactive. The platform has been fully audited by the Parliamentary Budget Office and has received a passing grade. It's a bold platform that sets out a vision of Canada that has been missing in political conversations. It's a policy framework that sets a path of reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, climate stability, economic and social justice, and real democracy. It's grounded in science and expert analysis. It's time the Green Party feels for people to be able to face the facts and get organized to confront the challenges we face and continue to build a strong and resilient society. It recognizes the need of representation of federal, provincial, municipal, and Indigenous peoples. As Elizabeth May says, we need all hands on deck.
Thank you very much. Candidate Mr. Finnegan, how do you foresee working towards your top political priority?
So if we go back to of the promise in Miramichi-Grand Lake specifically, the Canada Child Benefit is helping over 5,000 families in our region every month. It's a game changer. We've invested more than $40 million in infrastructure right here in our communities. We've invested $4.6 million for repairs to our fishing harbors, Point Sapin, Logicroft, Badnegoac, and McEachran's Point. Canadians can expect us to keep delivering on our commitments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson, how do you foresee working towards your top political goal?
If I can achieve my political goals just by making 2 statements in the House of Commons, and I don't need to have political power to be successful. The first statement, I believe that I can bridge the 2 sides between the climate change debate. I can do this with good environmental legislation, but we have to be fair with industry as well. And until we can do that, our economy will basically walk with a limp. The second presentation that I'd like to make, I'd like to reveal a hidden clue regarding cannabis. Now, this hidden clue will allow me to deal with the addictions and the overdoses that we see in the world today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nowlin, your response to that question?
As a result of my international work experience, I have many skills in the social sciences, which are like big corporate arenas for obtaining, preparing, presenting, and delivering solutions for funding of major projects. In the 2015 electoral platform, the Liberals mentioned the word infrastructure 51 times in their first few pages. I haven't seen much of it around Miramichi. Most of it has been repairs to wharves, things like that, that were already being built to be done. What we need is to fix that railroad. We need to get people moving so they can get the health care better on a railway that's properly organized on a daily basis, at least, if not twice a day. I also think that I have listened closely to 3,000 people going door to door. They want to do politics differently. They want less tax. We intend to drop the carbon tax immediately. We want smaller governments. I'm coming out of retirement with a lot of experience with large corporate funding, and I think I can be your candidate to get things done for the Miramichi.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Teslenko?
As the ND candidate, we have presented a platform that is going to work for you. We're looking at complete pharmacare, which is going to put money back in your pockets. We're looking at dental care. And just to let you know, this is something that the Liberal government has promised in the past and has not delivered on. The pharmacare plan was there, and all of a sudden it differed. All of the Liberal promises when it comes to helping you directly have been taken off the table. We want to put money back in your pocket. We want to put money back where it belongs and help you get ahead as an individual. Our platform is a little different. As an NDP candidate, I feel I will have the backing of a party rather than as an independent person. And the NDP will form either the leading party or the official opposition. So vote for me and you'll see it happen.
Thank you very much. And we have candidate number 7, Peggy McLean.
Thank you. Well, as your MP for Miramichi-Grand Lake, I want to revisit the dredging of the Miramichi River. This will allow for tourism and commercial industries to grow. I will advocate for the funding for the pellet mill. I would fight for OCOA funding for this project, and it's a very important project for our region. I will advocate for funding for our residential hospice. We're lucky to have Gerard and Judy Loge, but they need support to get this building done. I have committed to meeting with all the community members and all the leaders for every 4 months, once elected, to make sure that I hear from them what the needs of the community are, and it's my job to take those concerns to Ottawa.
Thank you very much. Now our producer is telling me that we were very committed to time, so we are increasing it from 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 3 minutes. So basically what we're doing at this point in the question is we can share ideas with each other. We can look at other people's policies. The floor is open, and we have 3 minutes. The floor is open to yours.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Our platform is quite clear. We're going to reinvest in the people in Miramichi-Grand Lake through pharmacare, through health care, through dental plan, and that's going to be paid for by taxing the 1%. The loopholes, the federal loopholes that are in place now, where corporations are getting away with not paying taxes, that's going to be sewn up.
So just to go back on some of the things that were said, 9,000 people were lifted out of poverty under our plan. 300,000 children with our Canada Child Benefit. Those are really game changers. Our economy is the best economy functioning in the last 40 years. Unemployment is the lowest that it's been. So we've been applying the policies to make that work.
Why is
tired
it?
of your broken promises.
Why
I'm
is
sorry,
it that
I'm
the
not
child
just being
poverty rate in
respectful.
Miramichi-Grand Lake is currently at 29%?
Well, it's
with
lower than it
all of
was.
your programs.
It's lower than it
It's
was.
nothing to be
It's
proud
disgusting.
of. And I want
it is.
to
I
say
agree.
that the fact that you say that people have been lifted out of poverty
Yes.
is insulting to seniors who are making decisions
Absolutely.
every day
You want to talk
as
about?
to
Let's
whether or
talk
not,
about seniors.
as to
We've
whether or
increased
not
the
they are
supplement
going
by
to pay for
$1,200 a
medications,
year.
buy groceries,
And
or they're going to pay their power bills.
We brought back the retirement age that the previous government had
right.
at 67 years. We brought it back to
and
65.
we are committed to leaving it at 65.
Well, we
I'm
voted
putting it
against
up
it.
to
Mr.
70.
Scheer
We are
voted against the
committed
last
to leaving
government.
it at
Giving medical
65.
Why
extra
did the Liberals
benefits,
not
that's
vote against the
unfortunate.
crushing carbon tax that's costing everybody, including businesses, and are going in the hole slowly?
2 weeks ago,
And
there was a
cost of
huge
groceries.
march about climate change. I participated, Mrs. Deitch participated. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people are telling us we need to do better. We need to change.
So what's
we need to have a
happening
future.
what's happening with New Brunswick, Mr. Finnegan?
With New
Where's your
Brunswick-
voice
Well,
with
when New
helping
Brun-
us to stop the carbon tax? We're already
What
taxed to
happened in New
death.
Brunswick, the four Atlantic provinces, all Canadian provinces were asked to put a carbon plan together. They had a deadline.
3 of the Atlantic provinces did come up with a carbon plan or an energy plan. New Brunswick did not. And so there was a
That's
backstop.
because we
They understood
recognize here
that.
that it's just a tax,
and that's
it's not
why
a
we
plan,
now have the
and we need to do better for everybody.
Plus-
the tax is only going to make it more expensive for us here in New Brunswick to continue to live.
Every people in New Brunswick,
more money is going to be spent
every person
out of
in
our
New Brunswick
pocket for gas, for
received a rebate.
groceries, for
Every people,
clothes,
a family of four
everything.
received $280
Yes,
more
especially
if you
those
drive.
that
If
didn't
you
drive,
drive,
it was really
if you
helpful.
drive 30,000
Jim,
kilometers
just
a
to
year,
interrupt respectfully
you have
with
money
this
left in your
debate,
pocket.
that it's nice to
But
be
this
able to hear
tax
from
has to
everybody.
increase to
As an
achieve the
independent
liberal
candidate,
levels
we're
of
going to
carbon.
debate
And it's
these and make
totally
sure we
returned.
move ahead
Totally
for
returned to the
It's going
country.
to
Miramichi-Grand
cost us
Lake.
over $300 or $400 by the time we're done. This is a crushing tax, people. It has to be killed.
It's not.
The People's Party
It
will
absolutely
end that
is.
immediately and give that to
Okay,
the
thank
provinces.
you. Thank you very much for that heated debate, and I think that's what our viewers want to hear, your political views. Thank you very much. We're going on to the next question, and we will have a similar debate at the end of this. Now, as we said, it rotates slightly, so candidate number 2 is going to be the first to respond, and then there's rebuttals, and we're back to our minute, and we'll see what happens at the end to see what time we have. So the second question is about opponents' policies. What policies do you see in any opponent's platform that is of concern to you and or the people of your riding? So candidate number 2, you have 1 minute.
I've been really happy to see that several of the parties have included in their platform an emphasis on climate change and intervention. While they don't, their promises don't nearly add up to what they should, I'm pleased to see it, and I'm going to say that is the green emissions by 2030 and be at net zero by 2050. When other parties deny the seriousness of the situation, the crisis we face, they put Canadians, particularly Canadians, at risk. We know it's from industrial and development who are most negatively impacted. Again, we need to recognize what we can do together, and that together we can address consequences of climate change.
Thank you very much. Mr. Finnegan, your response?
Thank you. So fellow constituents, the choice is clear. Either we keep moving forward or we go back to the dark years of the Harper government. The Conservative priorities are to ensure that richest Canadians keep getting ahead. Our plan will make life more affordable for the middle class and those working hard to join it by helping Canadians keep more of what they earn, making it easier for people to buy their first home with the program that we just announced, continue to lift thousands of Canadians out of poverty, increase support for seniors, giving families more time and money to raise their kids, continue to help students pay for college and university, ensuring help for workers in seasonal industries as we announced last winter. So those are just some of the plans that we have to keep moving forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Lawson.
In my opinion, there's way too much debt in the world, and I don't know if switching over to a Conservative government will fully fix the amount of debt the Canadians are putting up. Essentially 0% interest rates in Canada, the United States pretty much, and negative interest rates in Europe are a signal of this. And I think that until we can get over the climate change debate, we're going to continue to put up debt at an unsurmountable amount. And I think that I have the necessary legislation that will help us cross the flooded climate change river and be done with it, move on with our lives, and refocus the government on something else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nowlin.
Yeah, I have issue with the taxes that have been levied by the Liberals in particular, and in particular how they support rich people. I'm bringing back the Lavalin case. I don't understand why that was done. I don't think anybody does. I don't understand either why the goals set by the Liberals, why they think it's achievable to get a carbon tax. What's a carbon tax going to do for the environment? Are they going to pull a switch suddenly? I think we have witnessed very recently the expulsion of government-elected representatives thrown from their positions of responsibility. I'm talking about Jody Wilson-Raybould. Unfair to any person who has achieved as much as she has in her life. The task of an MP has to be performed with fairness. We have to be able to work with other people of differing opinions and not fire them on the spot. If that's the political platform and policy, I don't agree with it at all. We're in trouble with a government composed of only one set of ideals. getting a majority where they can do anything you want from the PMO.
Thank you very much. Ms. Teslenko.
I have a few issues. The Liberals platform, although they say they're in it for you, it's been our own experience here in the Maritimes that what the Liberals are in it for their rich friends. You have not seen anything better in your pocket since the Liberals have come into power. They target the poor and they give tax breaks to the rich. Well, we want to put an end to that. The Conservatives, and I'm sorry, but I'm quoting Mr. Scheer, yes, I'm Mr. Harper with a smile. I mean, we're not going to get anything different by electing Conservatives. We're tired of electing the red and the blue and the red and the blue, and all of us paying the fallout for it. It's time, Miramichi-Grand Lake, to do something different. Get a party in there that's actually going to listen to you and act on your behalf, not on the corporation's behalf. We need to make a change, and we need to do it now.
Thank you very much. Mrs. McLean.
Thank you. Well, I would like to remind Mr. Finnegan and I guess Ms. Teslenko that my leader is Andrew Scheer. It's not Mr. Harper. So I have issues as well with the platforms, particularly with the Liberal. As we have said, this carbon tax that you talk about is just that. It's a tax. It's going to make life more expensive for every single Canadian. As for the Green Party and the NDP, you talk about pharmacare, you talk about dental care, free for everyone, yet you plan on taxing the top 1%. Ms. May herself has said that there is a fatal flaw with that program, and that is that the top 1% have the money to tie us up in court so that they don't have to pay this tax. So not only is this going to be downloaded on taxpayers, this pharmacare, so are the legal fees. So for me, I think that we have the best platform put out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Mackenzie.
Interesting facts. My position is to work with and implementing policies that's going to make it better for the people here in this riding, and by not making it more costly and challenging to get through. And that means no carbon tax, of course, and that means no more increases. We have to implement policies, and we have to look and implement these policies that are going to be betterment for all the people. And I'm sorry, Mr. Finnegan, but you didn't look after your seasonal workers this time. We really have to look at a new reform to make sure those EI programs are looked after and those programs are implemented for the people. The student loan debt, yes, there's some good platform responses throughout, but I am concerned because there's a lot of concerns with the debt coming through from students and the inabilities to pay them. I'm impressed with some of the platforms on the Liberal side.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you for your comments. Now we are in our moderated debate. We've increased the time again. You're so punctual with your times. We're at 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Now this is an open debate, and we would like you to provide your party or your independent platform on the debate that we were looking at, which is opponents' policies. The floor is open.
I want to start with Ms. McLean's comments. Again, we're hearing scare tactics. What she's talking about is putting misinformation out there and scaring Canadians so that they will vote Conservative instead of voting Liberal. Well, the reality is we don't have any scare tactics in our policy.
No,
we're being transparent, we're being fair and honest.
Absolutely.
What scare tactics are we putting out there?
Read your last statement.
The one you just mailed.
I didn't feel scared.
Thank you. We deal in facts, and you want to talk about facts. Well, it was brought up about the EI. Well, in the 2015 debate, Mr. Finnegan had said that the Liberals were going to reverse the previous government's changes to EI. However, the Trudeau government, in fact, created a black hole with our seasonal workers.
Absolutely not.
Their answer is a pilot program, and that coincidentally expires this year.
No, coincidentally, we just made it permanent. If you read our platform, we have a platform, by the way, and it's been released. yours hasn't
Our
been released.
platform has been released.
The EI
piece by piece.
issue,
We have put it out
the
there for people to be
EI
able to
issue.
digest.
The leadership of this currently
I met with all
today,
the communities.
and no, nothing against you, Mr. Finnegan, but your leadership has shown and proved over and over again in the last 4 years to be fair.
So
And
let's-
it also shows that the injustice. I stand in solidarity with Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott on the dismissal of a party without injustice and
Thank you.
without
If you
cause.
let me,
So at the same time, I've also figured out and seen some viewpoints from another political party, Ms. McLean.
let's get back-
And I'm not impressed
Let's get back to
with
the EI
many
issue. I
different
wanted to respond to
opposing
And I
Ms.
don't
McLean.
know,
concerns.
I wanted to respond to Ms. McLean.
Have you read our platform that
I
we're
met
going to
with
reduce the
all the
interest
communities
immediately?
in the fishing industry. The reason why they were in that black hole is because the unemployment actually dropped. And that put them in the next bracket. But we met with them. I had the minister in Escuminac. Yes, unemployment dropped. Well, Stats Canada.
People have
And I
disappeared
had the
from the
minister
system
in the
and
writing
from
in
the
Escuminac
numbers.
to announce
It hasn't dropped. You
5
brought in
extra
foreign
weeks.
workers.
Everybody's happy.
And-
They're meeting one season to the next.
If everybody
You're
were
bringing in
happy, they
foreign
wouldn't have asked
workers.
me to come down and meet with them. People are not happy.
The
There was
reason
That is
they're
not
getting
true.
away
There
with
was
bringing
three
in
cars.
foreign workers
And as
is
far as scare tactics, when you talk about things like bringing up a 14-year-old video, we have made it very clear that we're not moving backwards, that we are moving forward when we are
you're not.
protecting people's
You are
rights.
with
We
your
absolutely are.
leader,
The
he
next
is
thing
no
you're going to
different.
accuse us
Absolutely
of is taking
no
the
different
vote away
than
from
Stephen
women.
Harper.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Absolutely no
That's what I'm
different
waiting
than
for.
Stephen
Minority
Harper.
government.
And we were terrorized
We are
by him,
absolutely
and we will be
different.
terrorized with Scheer.
We're allowed-
Look at his
we're
position
allowed
on gun
to
control.
make
His
decisions
gun
on our
control
own.
is all about
We would
getting
our
scared
leader
on
doesn't
games
dictate
tactics.
to us what
Thank you,
our views and
respectfully.
what our morality is
Okay,
going
we have
to
someone who
be.
wants to respond
Yes.
quickly here.
I hear all this attacking going on, and I guess that's what a debate is. However, I do think that we can talk about things, and we can talk about it in a way that's not violent and attacking one another. There are flaws in each one of our platforms, and there's also some very strong points. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we could work towards
We
that
need to finish
respectfully?
this. Okay, blue, red, battle.
We're done
Yes.
with this section right now. A point going forward, if we are allowing the other candidates to give their viewpoint and then productively countering their viewpoint, we will hear everybody's views. So keep that in mind. It's unstructured, but structured all at the same time. So let's continue with our next topic. This is the next question, and I believe this question is going to candidate number 3 to open things up. Question number 3. How will your party strike a balance between protecting the ecological integrity of Canada's forests and the need for an economically and environmentally sustainable forestry sector? You have 1 minute.
Thank you. So Canadians know that climate change is real, and that's why the Liberals have an ambitious plan to combat it. We can't afford to go back to the Harper years and need to step up our fight against climate change. We have just committed that we would plant 2 billion trees, which would be a carbon sink for our emissions. We've already made significant progress with our protection of coastal and communities and ocean protection plan, putting a price on pollution and our ban on harmful single-use plastic. A re-elected government would achieve net zero emission by 2050, the only government in the world that has set those goals. That's 30 years down the road. Setting legally binding 5 years milestone. Helping communities deal with the realities of increased climate-related disasters, such as we've seen 2 years in a row, 100-year flood happening 2 years in a row, and the ice storm, of course, everybody remembers that one. Make it easier and more affordable for people to use zero-emission vehicles, investing every dollar earned from the Trans Mountain Expansion Project to a clean energy transition. Liberal plan is the only one that is both ambitious and realistic.
Thank you for your time. So our next candidate, Mr. Nowlin. Oh, sorry, my mistake. It's Mr. Lawson, my error.
Is the question on climate change or
Yeah.
the forestry sector?
On the forestry sector.
Okay, yeah, well, in my opinion, I don't think that we should be spraying New Brunswick. I've actually talked to some people in my riding that actually have been sprayed, not the forest, but the people themselves. So apparently the birds and animals are not well, and obviously the people who have been sprayed are not well as well. So I think that we should maybe possibly rethink the management of the forestry sector and maybe cease to spray New Brunswick. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Nowlin, sorry to mix things
Climate
up.
change is a naturally occurring phenomenon and has been for a long time. Alarming the world with stories of rising temperature and water is not a way to make our lives any better. We do need cleaner energy. We have to get energy to our pumps until we get out of this mess we're in with carbons. Planting more trees, like Mr. Finnegan said, is a great idea. I'm glad to see they're going to do that instead of clear cutting like Irving is doing. We will gradually move to renewable energies as is happening right now, but it's going to take a while. One thing we need to do is to drastically drop the number of tankers bringing fossil fuels into the Bay of Fundy. We don't want another Exxon Valdez. We need to pipe our own fuels from our own sources. This means building pipelines, like Mr. Bernier said, into an energy corridor, replacing those with the investiture of our chiefs of the 4 nations within this riding. There are millions of gallons used by these ships and these tankers as well. We need to fix the problem soon.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Teslenko?
I have concerns about what has happened in the past here in New Brunswick with the forest industry. And it is a national concern. It's not just happening in New Brunswick. The clear cutting that has been happening is causing erosions along our water banks. The clear cutting in the woods is destroying natural habitats for our animals. So we're seeing more and more problems there. I'm glad that how many trees were 2 billion trees are going to be planted? It's probably a little bit too late, but when I look at your issues on climate change, I just kind of have to go out on a limb here and say, you're 100% committed to climate change and fixing the environment, but you go and you buy a pipeline. So I don't know what's going to happen there. Spraying is a concern. It's been brought up several times. We need to look.
We have a real believes in using technology, not taxes, to meet technologies here at home. And I think we can get in line and reduce emissions to a 30.
Thank you, Mrs. McLean. Mrs. Deach. Oh, number 1.
No, that's fine, Jim. There's lots more that we can all do to help our climate and the changes that's been affected. Yes, there are a number of concerns that Miramichi-ers and Grand Lakers have, and that's a lot. We live along the rivers, and it's continuing to cause infrastructure issues, and the money's not coming back to help those that with these changes. I think that we need to continue to provide to all rural areas in our riding with the infrastructure and gas tax monies to promote and stabilize and fix this problem and continue to work together in finding solutions instead of tearing and not getting to the root cause of these issues. Of course, recycling is something that we can all continue to do and implement and find ways to promote as your member of parliament and in Ottawa.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
and
Jim.
Mrs. Deach?
Well, it's interesting. We start off with talking about forests, and the Green Party would have a national forest strategy. It actually would be reintroduced. That was cancelled some years ago, and that would influence how we lumber and how we plant trees, and it's a very important thing. We would propose planting 30,000 hectares of trees annually until the year 2050 for all the reasons that everybody has spoken about. The CO2 sink is very important. We've spoken about spraying, and that is a real concern, but it's not just a concern in our province. And the clear cutting without leaving buffer zones is being a practice in our province and is a practice elsewhere, and is impacting our rivers with runoff, and their water is warm and it's stressing the salmon.
All right, thank you very much. Now we're back to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I just want to remind you that I believe in open debates, but I also believe in all viewpoints being heard. I ask politely that you allow the candidate to express your counter, and then you listen to their counter as well. So you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. It's an open floor.
So if I may, forest is an important economic driver in New Brunswick, and it'll always be. I'm, however, a bit concerned about it being sustainable. I had the opportunity to fly from Miramichi to Fredericton 2 summers ago in a low-flying plane. We followed the Miramichi River, and I was appalled to see all the open fields, the clear cut, and that not only impacts the ecosystem within the forest, but also the Miramichi River. Mm-hmm. Like, it warms up the springs, and salmon needs cool pool. Those are very concerning. Although I know, people will say, well, we have a sustainable plan, but I was very, very concerned when I flew over there and to see the devastation, or not the devastation, but the open fields and the way the water can seep directly in the river. So I know we need to do something about it, even though it's a provincial issue.
Responses?
Who's responsible for that?
The province is managing the forest.
Was that under the Glen government?
Pardon, sorry?
Was that under the Glen
That's
government?
been under all governments. So, Irving's and the freeholders are also managing different licenses, but it's under the forest management plan.
So
Provincial.
what have you done to help with the bass, the salmon, our billion-dollar industry
Yes.
with the salmon, Mr.
Yes,
Finnegan?
absolutely.
What has this Liberal government done?
So we've invested a lot into river protection. We've invested, so there's different projects along the river, including cast. But if you know, only 10% of salmon return to the river. So a lot of it is mortality at sea. We have about 27,000 salmon population right now. Some will ask the question about cast. Not everybody's on the same point of view, including some of the mayors up and down the river.
I think
First
you
Nation
have a
community.
different point of view. I've been hearing of some very strategic people that are invested in our
Well,
economy
I think it's
here,
time
and
that
it's
we
a shame.
allowed our stakeholders to have a say instead of
absolutely.
DND dictating to us what's good for us. I think it's appalling that we are killing thousands of salmon every year instead of releasing them back.
So I've had the minister here in the riding, including his parliament secretary. I've had the Miramichi Salmon Association,
and yet there's nothing that's been done
indigenous
about it.
communities up in Fredericton to meet with the minister. There are plans
And
with the
still-
indigenous communities. But as I
still
say, not
nothing's been
everybody.
done.
Atlantic Salmon
We
Federation
continue to kill
opposes
salmon every year.
the SAS project.
Why wasn't something done, Mr. Finnegan, when the bass were reported 6 years ago that they were
They're an
eating all the
invasive
salmon in the
species.
river? Why wasn't something done?
Bass is a natural.
somebody
Bass
was
is a
making
natural.
Okay, we need to stop that question. Thank you very much. Great debate, better debate. Next question, and we are on number 4, so it's Mr. Lawson will be responding to this first. Question 4 deals with oil fossil fuel industry. Although the oil patch is thousands of kilometers from our riding, we have many men and women who indeed travel and work there. How do you feel we work with this industry in the future?
Well, in the last 6 years, the United States went from 8 million barrels of oil per day produced to 12 million barrels of oil a day produced. Canada went from 4 million to 3.5. So if we were allowed to grow our industry just at the same pace as everybody else in the world, we would be producing approximately another 1 million barrels a day. At $53 US a barrel, that's $53 million a day every day that Canada's economy is short. So I think that we better soon find somebody that can get in between the two sides of this debate and make some sense of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nowlin.
Even though we have to continue our short-term use of fossil fuels, which is necessary to get us to the solar panel, wind charging age that we're all talking about, which would cost billions to do immediately. Nobody could afford that immediately. However, the oil is going to have to be used for 10 to 15, maybe 20 years until that happens. We're all talking about salmon. We're talking about woodlots. It's gone on for 50 years. Why don't we build pipelines to bring thousands of jobs into this province? Why don't we build pipelines to get rid of the oil tankers that are approaching our coast, killing whales and other species of fish? Why is it not being done? Mr. Bernier has been talking about this for a long time. One of the main reasons he left the Blue Party. One thing we need to do is to drastically drop the number of boats that are bringing fuel in from Arab countries that tend to kill journalists. We need to change things. Much of it will not be done by government or universities. It's politicians working with entrepreneurs, not with just the money, government money, but the will and the power and the know-how to get it done.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Teslenko.
You can just call me Eileen.
Eileen.
Yeah, Mrs.
Am I
Teslenko.
destroying your name? Am I destroying your name?
Well, no, you're not. I just not
Okay.
comfortable with the
Okay.
formality. I'm not a formal person. So, thank you. As far as the fossil fuels go, they are here. They are a revenue source at this point. They were keeping Alberta strong. That's not happening anymore. There's a lot of controversy about it. Right now, our party is committed to looking at all types of other types of fuels. We're not ruling out the use of fossil fuels at this point, but we are taking a serious look at what would be less invasive to our environment, and that's where we're going from here.
All right, thank
Okay.
you very much. Mrs. McLean.
Thank you. Well, while we'd all like to move towards green energies, we're not there yet. So we will declare construction of an energy corridor to be in the best interest and the national interest of all Canadians. The National Energy Corridor will include renewable and non-renewable energy sources. It will move oil, gas, hydroelectricity, telecommunications, and other things from coast to coast to coast. It will streamline proposals for future projects. Both provinces and Indigenous peoples would share in the prosperity that this project would bring. We will overturn Bill C-69. This recent legislation restricted the movement of oil tankers in northern BC, which further restricts our ability to get our own resources to the global market. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Candidate number 1, Allison Mackenzie.
I think what most of Canadians are concerned is just about the prosperity of our country and the safety. So when it comes to fossil fuels and implementing renewable energy sources, as it will save the economy and lessen the pollution. On the impact of our health, our concerns, because there's an alarming rate of cancer in this riding alone. So as statistics are showing. So first of all, the pipeline seems to be a hot topic for electors in this riding. Do we want to continue to grow our economy? We depend on handouts from the West, transfer payments. So do we help the people in the West to continue to, with those pipelines, and to continue to grow and utilize our own oil, as opposed to bringing it in from other countries? Lots of questions, lots of debates, and lots of concerns, and that's where I'll help.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Deitch.
The goal of the Green Platform is a safe and prosperous country. We know that carbon dioxide is by far the largest contributor to climate pollution. In Canada, over half of our carbon dioxide emissions come from producing and burning coal, oil, and natural gas. We need to keep fossil fuels in the ground and retool society to run on non-polluting and renewable energy sources. I hear the concern of people about jobs, but already there are 268,000 people who are employed in clean energy sector in Canada. And once we start a serious natural retrofit, which both the NDP and the Green Party are talking about, of all buildings and industries, moving away from fossil fuels, projections put future jobs in energy efficiency retrofits at around 4 million alone. In comparison, 62,000 people work in the oil and gas sector nationally in 2018.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Finnegan.
Thank you. So our Liberal has always taken action to support our energy sector and the job it creates by making a market access a priority. Right now, most of our oil is trucked or is trained or a pipeline that's been built in the United States. A Keystone pipeline will come in line soon. But that's the only access we've had. In 10 years of Harper government, they were not able to get a pipeline to Tidewater. We have a pipeline, Trans Mountain X. We have to get our resource to market. There is a transition that's going to take place, but we all drove our car to get here tonight. Although I carpooled with others, we do what we can, but we cannot turn the tap off tomorrow. And as a major contributor to our economy, we still have to get our resource to market and get the best price we can for it. So all the profit, by the way, from that pipeline will be directed directly to green energy project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So the topic is the oil and fossil fuel industry. We have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The floor is open.
Well, I think it's quite hilarious, really, that you talk about the Liberal government and supporting the industry when, as I just pointed out, that Bill C-69 restricts the movement of our oil tankers, which prohibits us from getting our own resources to market. Not to mention that your government canceled the Energy East, but yet you bought a pipeline out west. I find it very conflicting,
So
Mr.
all
Mr.
myself
Finnegan.
included, we all supported Energy East. The reason it was stopped is a business decision. That's all it was. Bill C-69 will put clarity. It's a one package. You don't have to go in 10 different departments. It's clear. You get your project through this.
It's clear that
and
we
you will
can't
be-
get our
you will be
own
accepted.
resources to
It's
the
very
global
clear
market.
that nothing is being done about it right now. I agree with this lady right here.
Mrs. McLean.
The problem, Mrs. McLean, I'm sorry, there's so many of us on the dais, I can't remember everybody tonight. What we need to do is to look at solar seriously. The U.S. has created 310,000 jobs in the last 10 years alone. They're slowly going to solar and wind. I install solar and wind on my boat in the Bahamas. I never have to start the diesel engine. I know what solar can do. We cannot get there immediately. It's too much money.
That's
the
why
ratio
our
of
energy
workers in
corridor
the
will
solar
address that.
industry for one coal worker is 49 to 1. We're looking at creating millions of jobs.
The NDP
But we need the
platform.
funding from government and the support of federal government to get it done.
That's our energy corridor. That's
end-
exactly what
Somebody
it will
can get
do.
between these people and
The-
actually make sense of it all.
the
It's just going to be a
NDP
bunch of talk.
The
Eileen?
NDP platform is looking at using our EI system to retrain those in the oil and gas sector, looking at retraining them into green jobs.
Jobs
looking
that
at
don't exist.
jobs that will exist by creating solar panels here. Why can't we create them here in New
Exactly.
Brunswick?
100%
Why
agree.
can't we have a solar plant here?
Well, I do
Exactly.
believe that we
We've
can
co-
be leaders in green energy, but we're not there yet. So to say
But
that we're
we
going to
can-
train
we
people
can
for
be
jobs that
there.
don't
If I
exist
might-
doesn't make sense to
if
me.
I might observe,
Yes.
the idea of having a national corridor, I think we have to be thinking about all the stakeholders.
And
And
we
I
will
would be
consult all the
very curious
stakeholders.
about having everybody at the table.
Absolutely,
And that
we're
includes
committed
the
to that.
Indigenous.
We are absolutely committed to that.
Because
Thank
I'm
you for
certainly
bringing
not
that up.
hearing that amongst
I
people
would
in
not
New
give up
Brunswick.
on it
absolutely
because
are
it's our
It's quite
only
a
chance to
diverse
save the
topic.
environment.
It's not.
It's such a
The
diverse
conservatives
topic. There
are
a
such
lot of
bullies. They will
concerns.
The lady
land
has
grab.
the floor
I'm
first.
sorry.
Yes.
That's okay.
I
It's such a
apologize.
diverse topic, and it's one that there's so many
Okay, we have to
divisivenesses.
stop it. We're out of time. Thank you very much.
But it's an important topic.
Yes, it is. Certainly an important topic. So now our next question is for Mr. Nowlin. He starts off the question. This is on healthcare. There has been talk about implementing a national pharmacare plan in Canada this election. What are your thoughts on such an idea, Mr. Nowlin?
I think it's a great idea. I live in retirement Miramichi, in the Miramichi, where people can't afford to put food on the table because the drugs cost so much. My wife and I are lucky. We worked all our lives and we have great insurance policies. So a lot of people are not so lucky. We need a pharmacare plan that is fair, not giving it to the rich who don't need it. It has to be given to the people that need it. There needs to be government control of how this is delved out. Healthcare is a provincial jurisdiction, however, and I don't want to get too deeply into it, but it is a federal and provincial responsibility. Yet we put people in hotels in Moncton and St. John to get medical services. They're wondering why the healthcare costs so much. If you put people in hotels to get service, can you even wonder why it costs so much? We have people living in very dispersed localities, some living hundreds of kilometers away. We need a train daily. Why don't we fix the track, get a daily service to these centers? 2 times a day would be better.
Thank you very much. Eileen?
National Pharmacy Care Plan is one that's near and dear to my heart. I've only been back here for 2.5 years, and in the short time that I have been back here, I have run into so many people who have had to make choices between buying groceries and paying for their drugs. I know people who have been laid off and they can't afford to continue on the medication that they had when they were employed. So they're going through withdrawals. And it's a sad state. It affects not only their physical well-being, but affects their mental well-being, which is costing more and more into our healthcare system. It has a direct link to everything. I had one guy, I had to give him $2 because he didn't have $2 to pay for his drugs. He's on a co-pay program. So, and this is one of our child poverty people that we're talking about that have been overlooked in this riding. It's a sad state of affairs, and we can fix that.
Thank you very much. Mrs. McLean.
Thank you. Well, nobody knows more about a need for pharmacare than I do. My aging parents, my dad was buying my mom's medication, not paying for his own. We did not know that. And it resulted in him having 2 catastrophic heart attacks and ultimately passing away. So I understand the need for a pharmacare program. However, we need to be able to pay for these programs. Our healthcare program is to maintain the current funding formula for the Canada Health Transfer and the Canada Social Transfer. This will allow the provinces to have sustainable health funding. We've committed to $1.5 billion towards a purchase. We have now committed to a national autism strategy, $50 million over 5 years. This is a person-centered strategy that will be developed in consultation with autism organizations, provincial.
Mrs. Mackenzie.
Yes, I do agree with a great deal of responses here regarding the seniors and people without their medications because of cost efficiency or lack of funding. It is a great concern for the people here in this riding. I'm not going to continue to discuss the pharmaceutical, but I do agree with the implementation of it. I do feel that there's other healthcare issues here that's of dire shortage of doctors, shortage of nurse practitioners. We need to implement and continue to work on those. Wait times for specialists. The government needs to continue to promote and educate and enhance professions to accommodate the health concerns in the people in this riding and across the country in Canada. The mental health concerns are huge in this riding and all across the country. We need to, they're on the rise, the mental health issues are on the rise, and we need a government that's going to enhance facilities and the availability.
Thank you very
Jim.
much.
Thank you.
Mrs. Deitch.
Many Canadians have identified health care as a concern for them, and a recent study found almost 1 million Canadians were not able to heat their homes or get food because they didn't have enough money because they were paying for medication. So the Green Party does include a national pharmacare program. A new study has found that universal access to medication not only improves health outcomes, but also the economic well-being of low-income Canadians. Health care also includes dental care, a universal produced, and I will just stop there for a second to say, and yes, these things have been fully costed. We would prioritize expansion of mental health care and rehab services, and we'd work to reduce the wait times, guarantee access to safe abortion services as well as gender-affirming health services. In this riding, 10% of our population is Indigenous, so we would work to overall improve the health care of the Indigenous peoples.
Thank you very much. Mr. Finnegan.
Thank you. Liberals believe that no Canadian should have to choose between paying for prescription drugs and putting food on the table. The Conservative government stated that 95% of people are covered. Well, I can tell you in my riding, that is not true. That is absolutely not true. So we need to have a mechanism to make sure that nobody's left behind. That's why we've taken bold, concrete steps to lower drug price and saving Canadian billions of dollars by bulk purchasing. Instead of every province buying their own, now we suddenly have a national program where we will bulk purchase and reduce the price of medication tremendously. And the NDP timeline in 2020, I'm sorry, there's just 2 months left. It's not going to happen. We need to work with the province with that and implement that program. So we will take a responsible approach with foundations to take critical steps to implement national universal pharmacare so that Canadians have the drug coverage they need at an affordable price.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lawson.
I am in favor of a national pharmacare program and also the dental as well, but in my opinion today, I don't think we're ready for that. And I think you just have to look at 8, 10, 12-hour wait lines in our hospitals. So until we can get the actual healthcare system corrected and working more properly, I think we should start with that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So we know the question. We have 2 minutes. Let's go.
Mr. Lawson, I was interested in your response, and I agree. The wait times are, for people waiting in hospital, wait times generally are a problem. However, we would probably find that fewer people were actually utilizing ER and hospital facilities if they indeed did have a pharmacare program. It actually does save, it's very cost effective. So that's very important to remember.
If
Well, Patty,
pharmacare-
I
if
want to say
pharmacare
that,
program-
again, your leader has said that, well, your pharmacare program is going to be paid for, as did Mr. Singh, that it's dependent on the top 1%, and they will tie us up in court. They're not going to pay for it. And
That's
as far
your
as you
scare
go,
tactic.
Ms. May said that in the debate the other night.
Okay,
If you want to go
Mr.
back and
Finnegan,
look
you
at
can
it,
have
please
the
feel
floor
free.
next. Let her
As
finish
far
her thought.
as Mr. Finnegan goes, your government has been promising pharmacare since 1997. And to be brutally honest, I'm not sure your government can be trusted after the release yesterday that we found out how you're treating our military members. These members who put their lives, don't roll your eyes, please don't roll your eyes. When our military members are putting their lives on the line every day.
No members will be
No.
left out with.
You know what? They can walk into a hospital and
they
be
will be
denied
treated.
care.
They will. That's
They could be
absolutely not
denied
true.
care.
Mr.
That's
Finnegan
absolutely not true.
respond,
It is
please.
absolutely true.
Building on what Ms. Deitch
And if you
said,
have an issue with it,
National
take it up with
Pharmacare
Global.
will actually reduce prices, but also we've committed, even though it's a provincial issue, we will have family doctors for every Canadian. Every citizen will have a family doctor. We will have a package that will go to the province, and it will be framework around making sure that we have family doctors,
You
recruitment.
haven't solved that problem in 4 years. Are
Eileen, you
gonna-
had next response?
Basically, what I wanted to say is that in the last election, the Liberals did promise pharmacare, and they backed out of it. And they continuously back out of it. And part of the problem is they're making backroom deals with the pharmacy companies. And because of the funding that dribbles in from the pharmacy companies, we're never going to see a pharmacare program under the Liberals or under the Conservatives.
Thank you very
We've
much.
never promised
Sorry,
it.
we are out of time. Thank you very much. We need to go to the next question. We have to worry about our time. So this one is directed to Eileen Teslenko. What is your opinion on the possibility of gun control legislation in Canada, and what kind of effect will it have on Grand Lake Miramichi riding?
Well, our party is looking at a balance. We need to find a balance between the public for safety and the ability for lawfully owned firearms for hunters and recreational shooters. We're not looking at what's the word? We're not looking at total annihilation of guns, but we have to look seriously at what has been happening, not necessarily a little bit in Canada, but more in the States. I know Mr. Scheer, I saw a position he took, and he was rah-rahing, we're going to put the gangs in jail and we're going to stop the gangs. Well, it's not the gangs that are out there shooting schools up. And the shame is it's individuals. It's people who are depressed, people who are bullied, people who have access to guns that shouldn't have access to them. So we need to look at better legislation to control that and do something that is fair and work with all of the parties involved.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. McLean? Mrs.
Thank
McLean?
you. Well, I can tell you a conservative government will not go after law-abiding citizens. We will target the real criminals. We will target them with mandatory minimum sentencing for gun and gang-related crimes. We will consult with our chiefs of police. They are the people who are our boots on the ground. They know what their communities need, and we need to support them with resources. As far as the opioid crisis goes, we need to recognize that addiction is a symptom of a deeper problem, and we need to provide people with real resources so that they can sustain long-term sobriety. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Mrs. Mackenzie.
It's quite a debate with the firearm safety. I myself do have the hunter's safety. I do have the hunter's education, and I am as well a sportsman and a hobby that enjoys getting out as a sport. And I also am a hobby pharmacist. So I rely on those protection purposes for my sustainability of a livelihood, as well as many farmers as well. So to cut back to and start implementing changes to those law-abiding citizens are quite concerning to many Canadians. And so yes, I do agree with some of the concerns, but I also do question our leader, the Liberal current leader now, on his personal use and in the sport of firearms, and just wonder why are we targeting this group, and let's implement, as the Conservative candidate spoke, in facing the challenges that's creating these issues, and that being
Thank you very
mental
much.
instabilities for some.
Thank you.
And
Mrs.
gang-related.
Deitch.
Thank you, Jim.
The Green Platform certainly recognizes legal hunters and those who need guns in rural settings. However, what the Green Party would suggest would be very important is that we would be cracking down on smuggling of illegal guns across the U.S.-Canada border, and so would redirect funding to the Canada Border Services Agency so they could work in partnership with their American counterparts around that. The Green Party has called for a Canada-wide ban on semi-automatic rifles and all handguns except for those used for sport and policing. So anyone who owns guns, handguns for sport shooting, would be restricted to shooting ranges. It's important to strengthen the requirements needed to obtain a possession and an acquisition license, and we hear that frequently when there has been a shooting, that there is some question about that whole licensing. We need to bring into stricter storage and transportation laws for guns, and a confidential buyback program would compensate owners for surrendering.
Thank you very much. Mr. Finnegan.
Thank you. Liberals will protect the rights of hunters and farmers by not bringing back the long gun registry. Unfortunately, gun crime is on the rise, and too often people are killed or injured because criminals have used military-style assault rifle. Now, I am a hunter. I've been a hunter since I was 14 years old. I have a couple of guns registered, and I can tell you that Bill C-71 did not affect my joy of going hunting. I don't hunt much anymore, but I did, and I still own my guns because I am a farmer. I need sometimes to use that on varmints. Anyway, so what I'm saying is what we need to do is remove those assault type rifles, but also do background checks. That's where the issue is. When you have people that are unstable or have been threatening, we make sure that those people do not have a permit to own a gun. So those are some of the things that we would do, and places like Toronto might have to do something different because it's a different situation. But incarceration, U.S. has the highest incarceration in the world.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And we know what's going on down there.
Mr. Lawson.
Well, our riding of Miramichi-Grand Lake is a large rural riding, and I've yet to find anyone that thinks we should have more gun control. So I'm, as a representative of the riding, I don't agree with any more gun control. I think Canada has appropriate laws as it is. The real problem is the addictions and the mental health, and again, I'm the only candidate that is going to actually deal with that. Justin Trudeau and Andrew Scheer, they're not going to go to that subject. So if you want to see real progress on the violence that we see, maybe you should consider electing me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nowlin.
I was a very lucky kid. I lived on my father's farm and I was hunting with a gun before age 10. Here you go. I learned about guns very early. It's not about gun control, people. It's about gun responsibility. Gun control happens in the hands of a knowledgeable person holding one. I thought I was a knowledgeable person until I took a course, a firearms course, last year. That's a start to get us on the path to better litmus testing for people that shouldn't own guns. Guns will be here forever. Gun control is not possible. There's no such a thing. I said that's in the hands of the person holding the gun. The word gun control pits us one against the other in a never-ending time waste. We need gun responsibility, which has two avenues. A parent decides not to introduce their child to guns in school. We'll have courses. A parent decides to educate their child about guns and gun safety. Which one would you rather have your child do? To know or not to know? They should at least have the choice, and the courses should be given in school if they want, with proper places to use a gun.
Thank you very much. So we now have 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The floor is open.
I just want to talk on Bill C-71 and currently that the Liberal government wants to continue to implement changes. That's a backdoor registry that I feel that just targets the law-abiding citizens just to gain owners, take away from the owners instead of the actual cause. And at the same time, it just continues to create divisiveness amongst voters to gain voters from a different perspective. So safety, again, is the concerns of our citizens in this riding. At the same time, let's address the real concerns at the root of the cause.
So the Liberal Bill C-71 is definitely, it doesn't differentiate between gangs, organized crime, or legal gun owners. So that is a real issue that I have. And we already have strong checks and balances when it comes to gun ownership. My husband is a police officer, but in order to own a gun, he had to go through rigorous hoops. So we have strong checks and balances there. What we lack is stiffer sentencing for those who are most egregious.
And I'd just like to also mention for those viewers that don't know, you know, Patty, you did mention that there's no evaluation for criminal background checks. There absolutely is. No, there absolutely are for gun owners.
I said it should be strengthened.
Yeah. Well, strengthen it to what extent?
Check is a criminal record check. You can't get any stronger. You're either a criminal or you're not.
Finnegan?
So Bill C-71 has been here. If people followed hunting license, we had 3,200 moose that were killed. Everybody has a gun. It's not an issue. Nobody has been affected by that unless you have a mental issue, a background that would forbid you to owning a gun. So this, I had the Parliamentary Secretary of Public Safety in Miramichi to answer all the questions that the gun club had. And it went well. I am a hunter. I have a gun, and I can still go do the same thing I did.
So let's lay off the Bill 71. Leave the people alone, Mr.
I
Finnegan, for your
exactly with
Trudeau.
what these people are saying. However, a gun test is not a good test. I can go crazy 5 years after I get my license. I can drink alcohol like
So
this lady
isn't that up
referred
to
to,
the
and I can go shoot somebody. We need constant surveillance. It's gun responsibility. That has to start in the schools, has to be taught in the schools. It has to be broadcast on the CBC, which is mostly used for liberal propaganda. But anyway, that's another story.
Respectfully.
We need to have the
Respectfully.
education on the
It's not
network.
an issue.
Mrs.
I was in
McLean?
Shipman yesterday, and I went door to door, and it was the #1 thing that
All right.
everybody mentioned to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you,
we have
Jen.
to stop that topic. We're on our last question already. So this question is directed to Mrs. McLean. With our aging population, how should we deal with the issues that face our seniors in our community?
Thank you. Well, we will increase the age tax credit by $1,000. We will introduce a universal tax cut amounting to about $425 per person, or a lot of seniors are still together. That would be $850 per couple. We will expand the disability tax credit, which would be a benefit to all seniors. We will scrap the GST on home heating. That is not a luxury here in Atlantic Canada. We get minus 40-degree weather. We should not be paying GST on home heat. And we will scrap the carbon tax. As I said before, the carbon tax is just punitive. It's going to increase the price of our gas, the price of our groceries, our clothes, our furniture, and all necessities that we need to live.
Thank you very much. We have candidate Allison Mackenzie.
Yes, I do agree that has to be more changes implemented for the needs of the seniors in this riding. We have a great deal of seniors, and they are having a hard time making ends meet and just getting by. Some of them are not and having challenges. I'd like to also discuss that it's not just the concerns of our seniors, but it's also the concerns of our veterans. That's equally as important as well, because these veterans are those that fought for our country and continue to keep our country as free as it is. So we owe it to our veterans and our seniors who have continued to prosper this country for all their life. And let's look after our seniors in implementing a better solutions, better care. Let's give them, let them stay in their homes, and let's help them to live better.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Deach.
In Miramichi-Grand Lake, just under 25% of the population is over the age of 65. And this population is deserving of lives that continue to be fulfilling and dignified. The Green Party pledges such as guaranteed livable income, universal pharmacare, improvements to public transportation, home retrofits, and affordable housing all contribute to seniors' quality of life. We'd also develop a national senior strategy to develop creative approaches that can keep seniors in their homes. And other supports we would see would be ensuring that the CPP, the Canadian Pension Plan, remains robust and adaptive to changing needs and the circumstances, and that would increase over time so that the target income replacement would be go from 25% to 50% of the income received during working years. Another really serious thing that we have to consider is having a national dementia strategy.
All right, thank you very
Thank
much. Mr. Finnegan.
Thank you. After a lifetime of hard work, our seniors deserve further investments toward a better quality of life with stronger supports to make ends meet. That is why, as soon as we became government, we restored the eligibility of old age security and GIS from 67 to 65 that had been brought up by the previous government in a way to save money. We strengthened the CPP and increased the GIS for our most vulnerable seniors. We've invested $75 million for innovative senior health project based right here in New Brunswick. We also supported better health care, better home care, and mental health with an $11 billion new targeted funding over the next 10 years. As we supported low-income seniors who work by increasing the earnings exemption from the GIS, $3,500 to $5,000 now, they will not lose their supplement if they want to work a little bit longer. A re-elected Liberal government would increase the OAS by 10% for seniors when they turn 75, because we know 80% of people over 75 are women, single women, and they're the most vulnerable. So that's why we're targeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawson.
As I mentioned earlier in the debate, our Canadian economy is short by tens of millions of dollars a day. And we need this money for healthcare and obviously for seniors. Also, in my opinion, the Canadian dollar is too low. When the Canadian dollar is too low, it makes everything very expensive. I personally like the Canadian dollar about 87 cents or something like that. Therefore, and again, I'm the only candidate, I think, that can get in between these two sides. And let's have a resolution to the climate change debate. Let's move on with our lives and try and refocus the government on something else, preferably healthcare and seniors. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nowlin.
Growing old should be in dignity and in good care. The Liberal OAS increase of 10%, only starting at age 75, is an insult to those that are going to retire. It's a detriment to try to get people to work farther on into their sickness and their old age. Why is it only starting at 75? The CPI, the Consumer Price Index, is the problem with this. We're not going to guarantee a percentage. We're going to overhaul the CPI, which is what is used to base the CPP and the OAS on. We should not be paying tax on OAS. It's a supplement. We should not be paying tax on the GIS. We will take the GST and give that back to the province, not sent to Ottawa. It will fund many things, including health and old age security. In-home care is a good idea, but the cost of a decentralized one is too much. We can't handle it. We need to fund the building of many more senior centers where live-in facilities can provide nurses and care on site. I visited a Bathurst facility a couple of weeks ago where people live in comfort under the same roof right next to one another.
Thank you very much. And our NDP candidate.
I'm in a flux here. I have an 87-year-old mother who recently had a stroke. And so on the positive side, I have to say, and I have to give kudos to the healthcare system here in Miramichi. She was treated wonderfully. She got excellent care. When she transitioned from the hospital to home, she also got wonderful care. There are a number of things that she needed. But one of the savings graces is that my father was a veteran. So she has a pension that helps cover some of these costs. Most of the women that grew up in her era didn't work. They didn't have pensions. And so now they're trying to live on just an old age pension. And when something like this happens to them, there is no funding there for them. When they need to get handles put in for bathrooms, when they need to get potty chairs, when they need to get someone to look after them.
Thank you very much.
We need the funding.
Well, we're down to our final open debate, and obviously the topic is the looking at our seniors. We have 3 minutes Floor is open.
I'd just like to state something, because a lot of the seniors that I've been hearing from as well want to work. They want to be productive members still in society, but the government continues. We have to, as member parliaments, we got to come up with a solution to allow them to continue to be productive and stop making them pay more taxes and taking away from their supplements. Let them have a gap that we can implement a change and continue to prosper with them, because we're lacking workers to fill some of the void. It's so crucial and so important to allow them to be full members of society and continuing to work.
And that's exactly why, Ms. Mackenzie, that we've allowed from $3,500, they can now keep $5,000 without being affected by the supplement. So they can work. A lot of people want to work beyond 65, but they should be able to retire at 65, not 67. So this allows these people on supplement to earn extra money and it will not be clawed back.
Well, we will again not raise the age. We will keep the age at 65 to retire.
Vote against
And
it.
as far as you offering things to our seniors, again, I'm not sure your government can be trusted. Your leader has been time and again been found to be in a conflict of interest.
92%.
Not to mention that with our military, you've made great promises to them.
Right.
You are responsible, the federal government is responsible solely for their health care. It's not a provincial issue, it's a
That's right.
federal
We
issue.
do.
And yet, we found out yesterday that our military people are now in peril. If somebody is
Absolutely not true.
injured in a...
Try to stay on the seniors topic,
Yeah.
please. Try to stay on the seniors topic. I know
So-
there's a lot of good topics.
Absolutely. So if we have distrust with our military, what makes us think you're going to look after our seniors?
Our track record, 92%.
You do not- I wouldn't rest on my track
92%
record
of
if
our
I were you,
promise
Mr.
was
Finnegan.
killed. Hell, we need, well, I'll let Ms. Mackenzie go. Go ahead.
Eileen, do you have a comment?
I do. I think one of the things that we're looking is we need funding for home care. We need, people want to stay in their homes. We need funding for that. It's not going to happen overnight. There has to be better transfer payments. We need funding for hospices. We don't need full-blown hospitals for some people to go in, but we need places where people can go
Exactly.
and die with dignity, because that's
And
not
as a member of
happening
the
right
Board of
now.
Hospice, we lack that funding.
Absolutely.
We asked for the
And-
funding from the federal government and we were turned down.
We
Yet
have the
yet
check on the
hospice
table.
in-
Because the province
in
administers that.
Moncton.
Okay, Mr. Finnegan, respond to her.
The province administers that. We have the check on the table if the province will move ahead.
Well, the province put their money in, so I
yeah.
find that ironic that you have a check that we haven't received.
We will pay our share.
Well, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
I will let hospice
I've
know
had a
as soon as I
conversation
leave
with
here.
Dr.
I hope
Lozzi
they're
about
watching.
that.
The
So we're
bottom
ready.
line is
So now
people are having difficulty in getting dedicated on-time help at home. I talked to several people when I went door to door. They cannot get nurses on a regular basis. It's
No,
a big
that's
problem. It
I
needs to be
wish I could
corrected
say
right
a
Okay.
away.
comment. I wish I could comment.
Sorry,
on
we
that.
have to conclude at that point because we are on the time frame. You can all take a deep breath. Congratulations, we are through with all the debatable questions. We're not done, but we still are through with that part. So at this point, we are going to be able to conclude, and I thank you, and I'm glad you took a deep breath because the hard part is over. We're at the point where we're going to make our closing remarks. And I would like, going back to number one, Mrs. Mackenzie, you have the floor for your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for
And you
having
have
us
1 minute.
tonight, Jim. When I am elected as your independent candidate for this riding, I will hold the power to be the deciding factor for any party to continue to govern. Your voice and your vote and your selection in this election is crucial. My place will be with the people in the riding for the betterment of all Canadians and not with a political party. Party politics is ruining our democracy, folks. And as your independent candidate, I will work with those who will work for you. Besides the topics that we have debated this evening, I also intend to address many other important issues brought on to me by my constituents. Collaboration is important, and to me, I urge you to reach out to have any input you may have with questions or concerns, because I am by the people, for the people.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Deitch.
Every year we don't implement bold and essential change is a year we get closer to the point of no return with our environment, especially in our home Miramichi-Grand Lake. We are a green place. We work in nature. We live in nature. We make our money in nature, and we need to protect it. We also have to consider the social contract that we have with our citizens. So this is a dual challenge of responding to climate emergency while addressing the social contract with all citizens. With that said, the Green Party has never been, nor will it ever be, a single issue party, as you've seen in this debate. To those who talk about a wasted vote, I will only say that the only wasted vote is the one you don't believe in. So think of your vision of Canada, and that's what you need to vote for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Finnegan.
Thank you very much. And on the 21st, people will be asked to vote for a person that they can trust. I've had a business in Miramichi for 40 years. People trust me because I always deliver. I never break a promise. So I think it's important to send somebody that you can trust, that when you walk in his office, you will not be asked how you voted, what's your language, which part of the riding you come from. I always treat everybody equal. My record speaks for itself. A Liberal government will continue to invest in people and communities, not the rich and powerful. We have made so much progress in the past 4 years. Let's keep moving forward. Alors, mes amis des communautés francophones, je vous remercie pour l'attention ce soir et j'attends vous revoir après le 21 pour continuer le travail qu'on a fait. Merci. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Lawson.
Tonight we've heard a lot of talk, maybe not a lot of plans to implement strategies for seniors and healthcare. It all boils down to basically one thing. Our economy is short many tens of millions a day. And until somebody can actually get in between the two sides of this debate, it's going to continue that way. So I'd like you to consider voting for me. I think I'm the person that can get in between the two sides and move us forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nowlin.
Yes, our infrastructure is a mess. The 2015 Liberal platform had the word infrastructure in it 51 times. We have seen almost nothing of this riding. Billions were spent, though, in Western Canada with a proper consultation with our Native people. As an MP, I will, with our Native people's investiture, and I have spoken to the chiefs of this about this, and they seem interested, table requests to build pipelines in New Brunswick, like Quebec will also. It is the most environmentally friendly and cost-effective solution to get our oil until we have a better way to heat our homes and drive our cars. We have 23 hospitals in New Brunswick, a province with less population than the city of Ottawa. People have to stay in hotels at great cost. This has to be corrected. Veterans' pensions were repealed back a few years ago by the government. A pension that was guaranteed for those that were injured. It was taken away and they were given a lump sum. We made 2 classes of veterans because of that. We have to correct that. It will be retroactive payments and it will be brought back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nowlin. Mrs. Teslenko. Eileen.
Thank you, Jim. Did I get your name right? I think we're at odds here. We're always going to be at odds in a party system. My problem is I respect everybody here at this platform. What I don't respect are the parties. I don't respect the Liberal Party because of the broken promises. I don't respect the Conservative Party because of their fear-mongering. What I do respect is that we have put forward a platform with a costing to show you how we can make things better for you, how we can provide universal health care, how we can provide pharmacare, how we can provide getting rid of interest rate on your student loans, how we can have reconciliation with all of our 4 Aboriginal tribes in this area. We are prepared to work with individuals, not against you. So, vote pour moi. Je suis un candidate de nouveau de NPD pour Miramichi-Grand Lake. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Teslenko. Mrs. McLean.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank the other candidates for putting your name forward. It's not an easy thing to do, so kudos to you for that. I want to thank our moderator, Jim, and the Rogers Network for the opportunity to discuss just some of the very important issues that are concerning to the residents of Miramichi-Grand Lake. As a city councillor and as a volunteer, I have a proven track record for working hard and for standing up for my community. I understand how government works, and I know how to get things done. I'm asking for your support to allow me to take my passion and my work ethic to Ottawa to be able to represent the good people of the Miramichi-Grand Lake. I thank you for your time tuning in tonight, and I thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Thank you very much. I was just checking with our time. We have a few minutes left, and I'd like to thank each and every one of you all the riding members, Pat Finnegan, Peggy McLean, Eileen Teslenko, Patty Deach, Ron Nowlin, Matthew Lawson, and Allison Mackenzie for, first of all, for putting your name up to run. Democracy is the principle of our society. Is it a perfect system? Of course it's not. There are flaws in it, but without democracy, we wouldn't be the great country that we are today. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for putting your name up. I know there's a lot of work involved in running as a candidate, and there's going to be one winner, and there's no losers. Because we know that you are supporting your ridings, and you're giving your opinions as to how your ridings with your party on how your ridings should move forward. And I applaud each and every one of you with that. Democracy is the principles of our foundations, and one of the things that I encourage each and every listener here today is get out and vote. In the past, I know I was covering it a few years ago, municipal elections. They were the lowest it's ever been percentage-wise, almost in the history of our province. And it's sad when I talk to teenagers as a retired school teacher, we can't seem to get them involved in the political agenda of how the world works. And it's important that people like you get in touch with the next generation to move them forward and the importance of how democracy works. For you out there, please get out and vote. You're the foundation of what democracy is all about. Look at the platform, read the platforms of each one of the parties, and please get out and vote on October 21st. Maybe you have to get out on the early ballots, but please get out and vote. Again, I'd like to thank all the candidates and Miramichi riding here. Best of luck, Miramichi-Grand Lake. Best of luck in the coming election, and thank you to each and every one of you. This is Rogers TV. I'm Jim Chamberlain. Thank you so much for joining us.
The Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
When you become a Rogers volunteer, it's always an opportunity for everybody to come together and try different things that they've never been able to do before.
What I've learned here is different skills that I thought I would never even be interested in learning.
By being here at Rogers, I can learn all these different things that will help me be stronger.
Working here as a volunteer is a good way to get to know your community. It's a good way to learn how to work as a part of a team.
They're people from our community, so they know and they have a heart for our community to step outside of our comfort zone and do more.
Don't be afraid, because this is where you're going to gain the most valuable experience that you can use in your future.
I encourage everybody to be a volunteer at Rogers TV because not only do you grow professionally, you grow personally as well.
In Canada, there are 338 federal ridings, but on October 21st, your focus is on the local race. Get to know the candidates running to be your MP. Watch the local campaign on Rogers TV and online. And on election night, Rogers TV has comprehensive coverage of the local